How do you deal with difficult monitors and childcare licensing staff? Hello everybody, I'm Leon Porter, and today I'm going to be talking with you at the request of Mrs. Porter in this particular broadcast on how to deal with public relations when you're having to do business with individuals that are in your profession. And it can be edgy. And how you are to maintain as a professional when it concerns writing a complaint letter. And that is the foundation or the meat of this particular broadcast on how to write a complaint letter professionally. There's a way of doing that, and I'm going to share some tips with you on how to do that as a professional. And there are ways of getting your point across without being offensive. One thing about complaint letters, or when you have a complaint with someone or entity, is that you want to always keep it professional. In phone, in text, in email, or any type of communication, you always want to be professional. And there's a way of doing that. Now, when you're working in the child care industry, you can come across individuals that, in your opinion, should not be in the business from the child care licensing side, from the DSS side. Nobody's perfect, but nevertheless, some people, there are a lot of people who get in any profession, who can get in any profession just for the money. Whether it's child care, whether it's medical, whether it's science, whether it's teaching. So I'm not just pinpointing one particular sect or group or of a profession, but since this is a child care particular broadcast, and that's where we're going to be emphasizing our points here. Now, one thing about dealing with people is that you got to be patient. Lord knows you must, despite the volcano that's going on in the inside and your emotions about to erupt, and the person is talking down to you and not realizing who you are, and you want to give them a piece of your mind, and you want to tell them what IT is, and you want to do all these different type things. But nevertheless, there's a way that you can handle that. There's a way to keep the intensity of what's going on from escalating. And you do have people out there that will talk down to you. You do have individuals out there who would not do what they need to do to assist you when it concerns childcare. All these different type of, and many of you may have experienced these things. So it's not something that I'm thinking or something that I think about or something that, just a figment of my imagination. This is something that I actually know and actually have witnessed. But there's a way to diffuse it. So you need to, I would suggest for you to pay real close attention if you're having issues with the child care licensing monitor, USDA food program, or whatever, ABC, whatnot, and you're having to deal with a licensed professional. At least it should be professional, but they're not acting professional. And these tips are going to really help you when it concerns getting your point across to achieve what you need. All right, so let's get into it. It says here in the notes, whenever you are writing a complaint letter, okay, you want to be clear and concise, meaning you want to say what you mean what you say, but say it in a professional way. Your words, as soon as the person open up the email or open up the letter, they shouldn't get an uppercut under the chin because of the letter that you sent to them. Is so strong, it's so, to the point to where it's like if it was a knife, it could cut. No, you don't want to write a letter because now that becomes it becomes threatening. It becomes a threat. And you get more bees with honey, people. And so you want to write a letter that is not going to be a machete when the person opens up the email or the letter, the written letter that you sent through the mail, because they have feelings too. And, you know, when you have a disagreement with someone, and if you tell the truth, you don't care about their feelings. They hurt your feelings, so now I'm going to hurt your feelings. You know, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, you know, type deal. But you want to be clear and concise in your letter writing, and you want to describe the item or the problem that has arisen, and you want to address it. If it was an unfair evaluation when the monitors came out to do their monitoring check, and a lot of times they pop up unknowingly, you know, you open the door and there they are. And here you got children here and children there. You're trying to get the food ready and trying to get it prepared, and, you know, the education program, a lesson or whatnot. And here they go. And so they can give you marks that you don't appreciate, and you want to talk with them about that. You want to communicate effectively about the problem and how you disagree with this particular licensing evaluation or evaluation or whatnot. Excuse me. If you're following up on a conversation, be sure to say who you spoke with. Names are important, and dates. Be sure to add names, dates. If you want to get really into it, you want to include time, when it happened, it lasted this long, I spoke with this person and this was what they said. And I want to suggest this tip to you. We all have devices, a phone, but many times we don't use this particular advantage that is on the phone. And that advantage is a recording app that is on your phone. I record everything. I record everything. And we let the people know, hey, this conversation is going to be recorded, because when you call certain locations, it says this particular phone call will be recorded for quality and training purposes, or whatever, the language of it is that you hear from your neck of the woods. But it always, that's the foundation, and they're like, wait a minute, they're recording, so I'm gonna record. I mean, you recording me, I'm gonna record you, especially if it's a phone conversation between you and the child care professional. You let them know, hey, listen, I know these phone calls are being recorded, so I'm going to record this for my purposes so I can review later about this particular conversation that we're having, because the person can say, you know what, yes, we're going to give you apples and oranges and grapes, and a few days later, when the emotions change, the mood change, they've been stressed on their side of things, and you call them back and say, hey, where are the apples and the oranges and the grapes that you said that you were going to help me with, a Mrs. or Mr. Child Care License and Monitor? And they may say, what are you talking about? I didn't say I was going to do that. And you say, oh boy, and there we go. There's that machete letter. There's that machete, that knife email. You're letting them have it. But it's always good to record, and you let them know that you're recording. And you say, well, hey, listen, I know things may have been a little uptight, or some, things that, have been occurring on your end, possibly, of why you're talking to me this way. But I want to share with you this particular conversation that we had, and listen. And they will hear themselves say, yeah, well, I'm going to give you the apples, the oranges, and the grapes. And, you got proof. But there are many ways that you can, share or accumulate this particular type of information. But be sure you're transparent when it concerns the recording of these matters, these business matters. So the next point is state exactly what you want done. And many child care licensing, many child care providers just want to be treated fairly. If there are any grants out there that you are qualified for, you want them to be forthright with you and letting you know about these things. They're not going to do it all for you. But at point in times, they do or can send out different type of scholarships to your facility. But many times, you don't get those scholarships. You hear about the daycare down the street, or, the other business profession receiving grants, and you're like, well, where's mine? What happened? I hadn't heard about this. So you need to be concise whenever you're making that point of what you want done, whether it's scholarship information, whether it's back to the unfair evaluation, or you want to be you want to redo something, you want to have more time in clearing up this particular matter, and you want to be that speaking professional regarding what you want. You want to know also how long you're willing to wait for a response. When you're writing that complaint letter, you want to always include in it, it will be a pleasure to hear from you as soon as possible, period. And then you can say something like that. That's just an illustration. You can word it the way you want to word it, however you want to word it. But you always want to end with thank you, whether you're feeling thankful or not, people. You always want to end it with thank you. You don't want this letter to work against you. You want to always be polite in your conversation when you're writing a complaint letter. Third point, don't write an angry, sarcastic, or threatening letter. Here we go again. Here we go. You're in the boxing ring. The bell is already rung, and here you go. You ready to go at it. And let this particular monitor know, you don't tell me what to do, and you come into my facility, and you on my premises, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And you didn't evaluate me right, and it just goes on. You don't want to write an angry letter. You don't want to be angry. You don't want to be sarcastic, and you don't want to have it to be threatening. Because again, as I emphasize, that particular type of letter can work against you. But here in the points, it says the person reading your letter probably isn't responsible for the problem. And a lot of times it's not that, but many times it can be that person is is responsible party, and they are the problem. Okay, and childcare licensing staff, they're not perfect. They're human beings just like we are. They have bad days. And sometimes people that work for childcare licensing don't even have to have a bad day to treat you bad. But you're learning here on how to handle the situation when it concerns writing those particular letters. You want to also go up the higher chain of command. Their boss, they work for someone. They may walk around and think that they own it and the buck stops with them. But they had to fill out a W-2 form. They had to fill out an application to get hired in that position. It doesn't matter how long they were working there, 6 months or 60 years. They don't own the company they work for. And sometimes you really have to let them know in a professional way that's just how it is. They go in, they clock in, and they clock out. So they don't own the business. They don't own DSS. They don't own it because it's a state program, and they're not the owners of it. But you want to also remember that you go up the higher chain of command and you speak to their boss. And I know these people they sip tea and play golf and all these different type things together, possibly maybe, but you still go up the higher chain of command, and they'll get in contact with whoever the person that you're having the dispute or the disagreement with or the complaint with, and you let them know that you had whatever such and such that has occurred, and you feel as though you were not treated fairly or properly. You felt injustice regarding the situation, and you want to talk to them to find out how to remedy the situation and to come to a conclusion to move on with life, because you don't want to bog down with life, about this particular situation. So that's why it's very important to talk things through in a what? In a professional way. All right, last 2 points. Include copies of relevant documents like receipts, work orders, warranties. You may also want to send copies of emails and notes from conversations you've had, correspondence that you've had through email. That's why it's very important to write things through email, because there's that electronic paper trail per se that you have. You have proof. It's time stamped. It's dated. It's time stamped. When you sent it, how many people were involved, who you sent it to, whether it was one person or several individuals. They're all on the same page of what your complaint is. That way they can collaborate on their end to assist you to find out what's going on. And, you know, that's another point before we come to a close. Include other people that are part of this particular, that may not be part of, but yet they're still tied in together when it concerns child care licensing. They work together. And if you've had dealings with them, then, you know, a suggestion would be to add, you know, the director or the program manager and people that you've, you know, worked with when it concerns childcare. You want to, because they help keep each other honest, at least they should. And they can take, if that childcare licensing monitor is ignoring every email, yeah, include someone else in it. That way they can bring it to their attention on their end and they can see that they're being held accountable. Because, yeah, it can be that way. You can send an email to someone as professional and polite as possible and just adding all the, you know, the bells and whistles of respect and so forth and so on. And yet that person, that monitor or whoever, still would not respond to you after 50 emails that you've sent to them. So this could be a tip. It's not the end all be all, but it can be a tip that you can use as a professional. Include somebody else, 3 or 4 people that are higher ups over that person. And all this is public information online. If you go into the DSS website and a child care licensing website, it has a list of individuals who is the president or the executive or the person in charge over this person, and it just goes up, you know, down and or up the ladder of who's who. That you can include. And lastly, include your name and contact information after on a letter, written letter, or an email. You want to include your name as it states here. You want to also include your number, the way you can be contacted. And that way you can get the correspondence that you need. And you've been transparent again, you know, trying to get this information to them, trying to talk to them, trying to speak to them, trying to remedy this particular situation regarding your complaint. Now, I can go on and on and on and on and on, but the important thing is you do your homework and ensure that you are being a professional when you're speaking to these individuals that work for child care licensing, despite how you feel, and you want to send that sarcastic, that threatening letter and giving them a piece of your mind, and you don't want to do that. You know, you get more bees with what? There you go, get more bees with honey. But do your research, find out what you need to do in order to increase the portfolio, the business portfolio at your location on how to handle conflicts with professionals. So yeah, you will come in contact with individuals that will test you to where you will have to professionally write a complaint letter. In a perfect world, yeah, I know we don't want to be dealing with that, but since you're dealing with people and you're in the people business, whether it's a DSS monitor or child or parent of that child, you will have to do diligence to ensure that your business is a success. All right, I'm going to stop it here. I don't want to drag it out too long. Again, we thank you for tuning in to watching these broadcasts, and hopefully you learned something today that will help your business continue to prosper. See you next time. Bye-bye.